What's going on today, guys? Ronan here, and welcome back to the video. We got a lot to cover today, as this is going to be the finale for What If Ash Was Born in Kalos. All the secrets are going to come out. Everything will be unveiled. But before we get into that, if you haven't already seen the previous parts, go check them out. I'll link it in the iCard above somewhere here. And also, if you guys could do me a favor, don't forget to check out the analytical stat bar right here. You know the drill. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, drop a comment, and turn on notifications so that way you'll never miss a video from the channel. That way, you guys can fuel the algorithm as much as possible and help us get to a bigger audience. But with all that being said, let's get into What If Ash Was Born in Kalos Season 2, the series finale. I hope you enjoy. We begin today's part with Mabel as she orders Alexa to her feet. The team player scientist tells Alexa to follow her. She's finally going to be of some use to the organization. Reluctantly, Alexa does so, knowing that if she doesn't cooperate, then the punishment will be far worse. Mabel and the team player grunt lead Alexa out of her cell, down a long, narrow corridor that is just dotted by lights. You can barely see the outline of the person in front of you. This walk seems to take forever, with the Alexa and the grunt keeping to themselves. However, Mabel seems to be the talkative type, as she always is. She reminisces on where things went wrong, saying that out of all of Team Flare's agents, she never thought Alexa would be the one to turn on them. Mabel reminisces about a time long past, when the two were coming up in the organization. You see, after Alexa and Viola were separated, Mabel and Alexa became like sisters. They went on missions together, honing their skills. While Alexa was more of an infiltrator and kind of the muscle, Mabel was responsible for the tech and making sure operations ran smooth. The two were an unbeatable pair. Mabel even goes as far to say that everything that Team Flare is currently is because of the work they put in the earlier years. She doesn't understand why Alexa would give that up. It's here they come to a dead stop in the middle of the shadows, and Mabel turns to her old friend, demanding to know the answer. And she's not exactly pleasant when she says this. However, her outbursts and temper tantrum only get silence from Alexa. Though it takes a few moments, Mabel eventually collects herself. I figured you wouldn't say anything. You're ashamed, aren't you? You knew that it was the wrong decision to give it up all for that boy, Ash. Well, no matter. Your punishment is due, as AZ wants to see to you personally. After a few more minutes of walking, they eventually come to a room that looks very high-tech. However, inside of it, two things that Alexa is very familiar with. The tree that they stole from the Levere City gym, and the cocoon of destruction that they took from the Emberite mines. She remembers both of those days so clearly. When they found the cocoon, it was a cause for celebration. Her and Mabel were unstoppable in securing it. But then, less than 3 years later, Alexa finds herself standing in front of it, regretting the decision of ever securing that cocoon for this monster. But it's here that something else catches Alexa's attention. Something that looks very ancient, like it may be made of stone. This causes her to break her silence to ask what it is. Oh, so curiosity finally got the better of you, Mabel says. That's the machine that we've always been told about. The one that has the power to bring the world to its knees. The one that has the ability to put Team Flare in charge of everything. Just as the boss said, everything is coming to pass. And the power sources for this machine are the Tree of Life and the Cocoon of Destruction. Man, makes me wonder, how does he know all of this stuff? Oh well, it doesn't matter. In mere hours, that switch on the console will be flipped, and that machine will activate, bringing Kalos and then the world to its knees. This is where Alexa makes a play for the life of her and everyone she cares about. She knows that if that machine has the ability to fire, then it won't just be the world brought to its knees. The world will end. She suddenly breaks the restraints that are holding her arms in place, followed by incapacitating the grunt, all before Mabel can turn around to address the situation. What, did you forget that I was the one who taught you everything that you know? Alexa says as she eyes down Mabel. No, but I was actually hoping something like this would happen. I didn't like the fact that you went so quietly, as I would like the chance to teach you a lesson before the boss does. Well, I don't think you're ever going to get that chance, Alexa says, as Mabel tries to engage her, but Alexa uses her quick reflexes to easily evade the scientist. While you're fast, physicality was never really your thing, Alexa says, as she darts around her and slams the button on the console, activating the machine. No, what have you done? Mabel says. Oh, it's very simple. I'm making sure that your plans don't go through. Now we pick up with Ash and Korrina as they begin the final leg of their battle. Korrina wastes no time at the request of Ash, activating the Mega Evolution, transforming her Lucario into its Mega form. Alright Ash, I've shown you my strongest. Now, Mega Evolve your Absol, so that way we can get this started. However, this is where Ash surprises Korrina, telling the successor that he decided to walk a path without Mega Evolution. It's what was best for him and Absol. And ever since they decided to abandon it, their strength, their bond, has never been greater. Korrina sighs with a bit of disappointment. Wow. I didn't think you would try to take on a Mega Evolution without a Mega Evolution of your own, and your Pokemon being at a type disadvantage as well. I can say this battle is going to be over fairly quickly. We'll see about that, Korrina. Absol, it's time! Use Quick Attack! The Disaster Pokemon bolts down the field, striking Lucario with all that it has. However, the reflexes of the Aura Coyote are great, and at the command of its trainer, it counters with the Power-Up Punch, driving its fist straight into the jaw of Absol. While the Dark type was at a slight disadvantage there, it did manage to turn its jaw just enough to prevent a KO, allowing the fist of Lucario to slide right off it. Absol quickly retreats back to Ash's side of the field. However, it isn't long before Lucario is in pursuit at the command of its trainer with its signature move, Aura Sphere. Luckily, Ash is able to counter, calling for a double team at the last second. This gives the boy a sense of relief. Unfortunately, there's one thing he forgot about. Lucario is the Aura Pokemon, and even though double team is an effective counter against most opponents, Lucario can see right through it, spotting its opponent, slamming it with the Aura Sphere, driving it into the ground. The Coyote then retreats back to its side of the field, confident that the job is done. However, this is the moment that Ash was waiting for, it to drop its guard ever so slightly, long enough for Absol to fire the only move that has a chance of beating it. Psycho Cut! Suddenly, several intense bursts of aura shoot from the crater that Absol is supposed to be in. While Lucario is able to dodge the first two, the third one catches it in his knee, bringing it down. That hit had some power behind it, even Korrina can see that. Lucario makes an attempt to stand back up, but it's having trouble putting pressure on the knee that was just hit. That's it, Ash thinks. We've created our opening. Now, Absol, use Quick Attack! Once again, the Disaster Pokemon bolts down the field, dispersing the cloud of dust around it in the process. However, Korrina isn't going to wait for Absol to get to them, as she orders Lucario to charge 2 Aura Spheres and ready them for a defensive assault. Ash can see what she's going for here, so he tells Absol to charge another Psycho Cut, but not to release the energy, just hold it in place. Doing so, the Dark type connects with the first Aura Sphere, pushing through it, only for the second one to stop it dead in its tracks. However, this is what Ash wanted, as he tells Absol to release the Psycho Cut. Using what strength it has left in its neck, Absol slices through the Aura Sphere and strikes Lucario dead center in its chest, sending it to the ground. Almost to say, that's payback for the Aura Sphere that sent me into the ground. Absol then retreats back to its side of the field, awaiting for Ash's next command. However, the trainer stands patiently, awaiting to see if Lucario was able to survive that. However, they won't be waiting long, as Lucario is able to stand back up. However, it did feel those blows, to which Korrina is impressed. Ash is using close quarter combat when that's Lucario's strength. She didn't think that he would risk Absol's safety like that. However, Ash just tells her he doesn't have any other choice. If they want to win, then they're going to have to put it all on the line with every move. Ain't that right, Absol? The Dark type lets out a little growl, almost to say it's agreeing with its trainer. Well, Lucario, it looks like we got our work cut out for us. It's not going to be as easy as we thought. What do you say? Can you keep going? Surging with aura, Korrina takes this as a sign that Lucario is ready for the next altercation. This is where Korrina changes up the playbook a little bit, telling Lucario to go after Absol. Use Bone Rush! The Mega Evolution tightens its focus as it squares up and runs down the battlefield with whatever strength it can muster in its good and bad leg. However, it's noticeably slower, and Ash can see this. But as he watches the Bone Rush form, he can understand why Korrina had Lucario rush in. That move is going to allow for a wide range assault once it gets close to Absol. Well, Absol isn't going to let that happen. We need to end this now. Absol, use Psycho Cut and combine it with Double Team. Korrina merely giggles. That didn't work last time. What makes you think it would work this time, Ash? Oh well, I guess you're going to have to be taught that lesson again. However, this is where Lucario begins to have trouble. Before, it was only focusing on the aura of Absol, which was easy to spot. However, since it's took so much damage, its aura has slightly weakened. However, the attack of the Psycho Cut, while it's charged and the Double Team is active, every one of them are giving off the same amount of energy from the same point, which means Lucario isn't able to counter it. And this is demonstrated when all of the Absols converge on Lucario in one giant hailstorm of Pokemon, connecting with the Bone Rush, then breaking it with the Psycho Cut to land the attack point blank once again in dead center in its chest, dropping Lucario and bringing this battle to a close. As the Mega Evolution fades, Korrina sighs. She never thought Ash would be able to beat her, and the fact that he chose not to use Mega Evolution but was still able to topple Lucario shows just how much him and Absol have grown together. What he said was true. The two are a true team. Well, Ash, it looks like you've earned this, Korrina says, as she presents him with his 8th and final badge of the Kalos region. Wow, really, Korrina? Thank you, Ash says, as he begins to celebrate with Absol. However, this celebration is short-lived, when a quaking tremor runs through the area that is Shalor City and the Tower of Mastery. This is no normal earthquake, Korrina says, as off in the distance they can see what looks like an explosion going off. Dust and debris flies into the air as the rumbling in the ground becomes more intense. Knowing this could be trouble, both Ash and Korrina run outside the tower, only to be met with a sight of despair. Houses all around Shalor City have crumbled to the ground. Whatever that was is big enough to cause this much destruction, Korrina says. This isn't good, Ash responds. Where did this come from? This is where Korrina's grandfather chimes in, telling her that the news is saying that whatever it was happened in Geosenge Town. There was some sort of explosion. The whole town has been leveled. They don't know if there's any survivors. Knowing they need to be there, Ash and Korrina head out, much to the dismay of her grandfather. Now we flash over to Lysander. The violent shaking of the base has caused two things to happen. One, the power to his cell goes out, and two, with no power means no electronic locks. The red-bearded man uses this as his chance to escape as he pushes on the heavy metal door, only to be met with the sight of pure destruction. The base has collapsed in on itself. Things are sparking everywhere, and there's grunts of Team Flare running about, frantically trying to find any hope in this destruction. The only thing that Lysander can think is that AZ has activated the machine. Now we find ourselves with AZ as he is frantically ordering Zerzik to find out the disturbance and why this is happening. Unfortunately for the Titan of Time, the answer isn't something he's going to want to hear, as they get the notification that the machine has been activated. No, it's too early, AZ says. Then, in a moment of panic, he tells Zerzik to get the Tree of Life into the chamber. They need to initiate the process now. They are out of time. As his crony does what he's told, AZ then walks to the main chamber where the machine sits. On his way there, we see a very sad sight. Many cages filled with all of the multicolored Pokemon that we've come to know as the Kalos variants. They look as if they are malnourished, mistreated, and have been experimented on. But AZ pays them no mind as he heads straight to the machine. As he enters the chamber, he pulls out a very sad sight from his bag. An old wooden box that appears to crumble in his fingertips, leaving only its contents behind: the body of his long deceased Pokemon, a Floette. It is at this moment AZ lays his companion down as he gets word from Zerzik that the tree has been loaded. As he exits the chamber, he gives the order to fire the weapon. Slowly, you can hear the mechanical monstrosity roar to life as it begins to work for the first time in over 3,000 years. AZ can do nothing but watch as a light slowly envelops the area, as the Pokemon that are being held captive in the cages begin to cry loudly, only for it to fade away as AZ is lost in the blinding light of the machine. This brings us to the moment where Ash and Korrina end up just outside of Geosenge Town. What they see is nothing but pure destruction. The entire town has been leveled, all of the houses destroyed, as what was the centerpiece of the town has now emerged with what looks like 3 giant flower petals that appear mechanical in nature. They are so large that they have crushed everything in their paths. Not only that, but it appears that this place has become a ghost town, as all of the residents have abandoned their homes in search of refuge. But this isn't even the worst thing. As Ash and Korrina near the machine, a blinding light emanates from it, followed by a pulse of energy. While this doesn't really have any effect on them, it does cause something to happen in Ash's Pokeballs, in 3 of them in particular, as Quilladin, Rampardos, and Yanmega jump from their balls. While Quilladin and Rampardos don't seem to be affected, Yanmega, on the other hand, is a different story. It's writhing in pain like it's been overloaded. That must have been Ferior, Ash says. It may have gotten too much of a concentrated dose. That means that the tree that Team Flare stole from the Levier Gym is here. This is where a very familiar voice speaks from behind Ash and Korrina. You're right about that, it says. Turning, Ash locks eyes with the one person he was hoping not to see. Grant, I'm not going back with you. However, the Rock-type gym leader says something to the contrary, telling Ash to calm down. He's not here to take him back. He's actually here on his own accord, not with the International Police. He intends to stop whatever this is, now. While Ash is a little hesitant to believe him, he is reminded by Korrina that there are much bigger things here at the moment, and they need to put aside whatever differences they have. Reluctantly, Ash relents, telling Grant that he'll be watching him, but for now, they can call a truce. So with their now uneasy alliance, the trio begin to climb down the machine, heading deep into the ruins that used to be the underground base. Back with Alexa, she finally wakes up from the catastrophe that she has just caused. She looks around in the dim-lighted area, trying to find any semblance of any path. Among her survey, she sees sees both Mabel and the grunt that had accompanied her, both unconscious, trapped under some machinery. Also, a brief path that she can use to get out of here. It's at this moment that Alexa realizes that she's a little bit hurt. It seems that her leg may have caught some damage in that entire skirmish. However, she doesn't let this hold her back as she presses on down the darkened path. It takes her a few minutes to climb over and through some of the fallen debris such as rocks and computers until she finally reaches a clearing. Unfortunately, what she finds is something that is extremely heartbreaking. This room is very close to the epicenter where that blast and the quake happened, and unfortunately it was full of the cages that had the multicolored Pokemon, and Alexa is met with a grim sight. All of these cages, their contents are lifeless. This puts a fear of panic in Alexa as she frantically begins to search throughout them looking for her Pokemon. Luckily, she's able to find them quickly, finding Noivern and Helioptile, but her sense of relief is quickly overshadowed when she finds the third Pokemon that she was caring for, Skiddo, lifeless. Alexa holds the little billy goat in her arms as she begins to break down crying, with Helioptile and Noivern both unsure of how they should console their trainer. It is at this moment that Lysander overhears her weeping of heartbreak, and he makes his way to Alexa, only to find a semi-broken woman in front of him, being guarded by two very aggressive Pokemon. Now we shift outside of the base as another entrant has made their way to Geosenge Town. It's Looker, but he is not alone. There with him stands his Rampardos and a small army of the regional Kalosian variants. It's here that Looker has a brief flashback about all of the time that he spent in the mines. It was there that he was able to make great progress in finding remnants and fossils that were affected by what they had dubbed the aura phenomenon. Over time, he was able to secretly get them out and get them revived, placed in sanctuaries or hideouts all throughout Kalos to prevent them from falling into the wrong hands. Then he remembers the day that he gave the fossil to Ash. He was on his way out of the city when unfortunately somebody had gotten wind of him and his mission, so the only thing that he could do was unload the fossil in a place that they wouldn't really expect. That's how Ash got involved with all this. It's Looker's fault that Ash ended up with the regional variant Pokemon. Now he has to make it right any way that he can. Luckily for Looker, he's not going to have to wait long to get some action, as he can see that there are certain amounts of Team Flare Grunts beginning to spill out of the base as they are trying to evade everything that's happened and run for cover. With one order, Looker tells all of the Pokemon at his back, don't let the ones in red escape, as they begin to charge in. Now we shift over to Ash, Grant, and Korrina. They are making their way through the base. Unfortunately, it seems to be slow. That is, until Grant and his Tyrant, along with Ash and Rampardos, begin to clear away, using Zen Headbutt and Draco Meteor to blast away a lot of debris, clearing the way for them to walk. While this is effective, it isn't exactly subtle, and it begins to attract some unwanted attention in the form of Celosia and some of the grunts that have chosen to stick around. They begin to cause problems, especially when Celosia reveals one of the Pokemon that she's had, waiting to take on a worthy opponent, as she sends in her regional Aggron, that then Mega Evolves. While this is a problem, Korrina decides to step up here, telling both Ash and Grant that she will handle them, as she sends in her Lucario and her Hawlucha. Now, go, she says, as she engages Lucario's Mega Evolution. Ash and Grant take off running down the dark hallway, with the last thing they hear from Korrina is a loud, blood-curdling thud. As the two continue down the corridor using their Pokemon to clear the way, they again attract the attention of one of Team Flare's more notable scientists, Xersic. While the scientist looks a little roughed up, he knows what's at stake here, and he won't let anybody interfere with his boss, AZ. Without saying much, Xersic sends in his Pokemon, Pangoro. Ash gets ready to fight, but it's here that Grant steps up, telling Ash that he needs to be the one to move on. Grant will handle Xersic and then join Ash later, but Ash doesn't understand. What do you mean? We need to do this together. Grant tells Ash that he knows that his Pokemon are the key to stopping this. He has to be the one to face whoever's at the end of this road. If he doesn't, then they won't stand a chance. Let him handle Xersic. Reluctantly, Ash leaves Grant to his devices as he engages Pangoro with his Tyrant, while Ash continues running down the corridor, telling Rampardos to use Zen Headbutt on all the debris in the way. After a while, our young trainer eventually finds himself inside of the base that appears to not have taken so much damage. Unfortunately, it's also a place of nothing but sadness, as he can hear the weeping of someone familiar to him from around a corner as he bypasses all of the cages, trying to find its source. What he's met with is Lysander, standing very very somberly over Alexa, who's weeping with Skiddo in her arms. Alexa, Ash says, to which this manages to snap the young lady out of her sobbing just long enough to recognize that Ash is here. This also gets the attention of Lysander, and then Ash finally gets a chance to let the whole scene sink in, as what is actually in the cages around them breaks the boy's heart. What is this? Alexa, is that Skiddo? The only thing Alexa can do is begin sobbing again, while Lysander tells Ash that his ancestor, the lost king of time, AZ, turned on his great weapon. Power source is that of the life force of Pokemon, more specifically Xerneas, and any Pokemon that has been affected by it and its fairy aura. He then attempted something that he shouldn't have used the machine for. He intended to resurrect one of his long-lost Pokemon, and it came at the cost of the life of all these Pokemon. Fairy aura? Wait, that's it, Ash thinks. That's why Yanmega began screeching in pain. It was at that moment that the energy wave had burst from down here. So then what do we do? Ash says. Lysander looks at the boy saying, there isn't really much they can do, except prevent his ancestor from being able to load the machine with the cocoon of destruction. If they do, then all life as they know it will be over. This is where Alexa stands up. While she still has tears in her eyes, anger is plastered across her face. Then let's go stop him, she says, as she runs off with Ash and Lysander in tow. We aren't far from the center of the base, she responds. Wait, how do you know that? Ash says. It's here that Alexa goes on to explain to Ash about her time with Team Flare, and how she kind of knows this base like the back of her hand. While Ash is a little upset about this revelation, he then follows up with a question of why Team Flare would have targeted her and made it seem like she was the enemy. That's because they gave me an order that I wouldn't do, Alexa says. Ash, curious about what it is, questions this, but Alexa refuses to answer. This is where Lysander chimes in. Your orders were to eliminate the boy, weren't they? This remark causes all of them to stop, to which Alexa confirms. That was my orders. I was supposed to infiltrate you, wait until you were at your most vulnerable, and then eliminate you and take your Pokemon, so that way I could prepare them for the project. However, as I got to know you, Ash, as I got to know your Pokemon, I couldn't bring myself to do it. Every time that I was told that I needed to follow through, I just rejected. It eventually got to the point where every encounter we had with Team Flare, I was fearing more for my life. You remember when we met my sister Viola and I had to have that private conversation with her? It wasn't anything special. It was just me telling her goodbye, because it was at that moment that I had thought it would be the last time I ever saw her. However, after traveling with you, Ash, I believe that there may be a way to stop AZ, Alexa responds. Ash, your Pokemon, they're different than the others. Every time we've seen one of these regional variants evolve, they've maintained the same physical characteristics as their counterparts. But yours, on the other hand, every time that they evolved, they changed completely in shape and form. They adopted characteristics, other typings that they normally wouldn't, or they just take on all new forms. I've come to believe that there's a reason for this. I think that your Pokemon are the avatars of the legendary trio of Kalos. It's at this point that the base begins to rock again, and the machine is turning on once more. Alexa then tells them that they have to go. They need to hurry up. They're not far. So with that, the three take off into the darkness once again. It isn't long before they hear what is kind of like a celebratory laughter echoing through the halls that they are running, and quickly they find themselves in the main chamber with the ultimate weapon. There stands AZ with a Pokemon that hovers just in front of him. It worked. It actually worked, he says. My Floette, my precious flower, you will now be eternal. However, the Pokemon, it looks confused. It's unsure of what's going on. The last thing it remembers was the war, and then nothing. This is where Ash chimes in. Hey, you, he says, getting the attention of AZ and the Floette that hovers before him. I'm so glad you can join us. You see, Floette, it's back. I told you it would be possible. I just needed the right amount of power. AZ responds in a maniacal, excited tone. However, this is where Lysander dishes out a huge reality check for the situation, asking AZ if the cost of the lives of all of those other Pokemon was really worth it to bring back one. While the king really has no problem with this, as he has sacrificed many pawns over the millennia, his eternal flower seems to, as he begins to address AZ in somewhat of an angered and sad-filled tone. But Floette, I did it for you. I wanted you to come back. It didn't matter the cost. It had to be paid. I needed you back, AZ says. However, the response that he was expecting isn't one that he gets, as Floette's flower slowly wilts and sadness just falls over the newly revived Pokemon. It then, in a flash, vanishes without a trace from the sight of AZ and everyone around it. Wait, Floette, please, don't go. 3,000 years. I can't do it without you any longer. All of the sacrifice, all of the struggle, it was for you. But AZ's pleas for understanding fall on deaf ears, as Floette is nowhere to be found. It is here that AZ's misplaced happiness then turns to rage. This is all your fault, he says, turning to Lysander. If you would have just kept your mouth shut, Floette would still be here. It would still be with me. I told you what I was going to do and the reason for it. Floette had to come back. It was innocent. It didn't deserve to die. Yes, it was innocent, Lysander says. However, so was all the Pokemon that you chose to sacrifice to bring it back. The cost of its revival is something that Floette couldn't deal with. That's why it abandoned you. You forgot what it meant to be a person, a living being. You no longer cherish life, taking it for granted, as you have no end in sight. I don't blame Floette for abandoning you. That comment causes something inside of AZ to snap. His sorrow then turns to rage, as he tells Lysander, if that's the way you see it, then I will value your life no more than the rest of theirs, and you will pay dearly for what you have done. It is here that AZ then pulls out one last remaining thing from his jacket, a bottle. In a declaration of war, the raged field ruler declares, Hoopa, I unbound you. Unleash your wrath across the plains of existence. Suddenly, a cloud of smoke erupts, only to reveal nothing. Is this a joke, Lysander says, only for a maniacal laughter to echo through the hollow chamber. But it's not AZ's. It's that of what seems to be a malevolent presence. Shadows shift throughout the area, catching the attention of everyone in their peripheral vision. However, when they try to see what's there, they are met with just darkness, nothing. Alexa demands to know what kind of games AZ is playing. However, he simply replies that this is no game. This is just the beginning of the end, as the shadows that were shifting in the backgrounds begin to take form, and before them, a monstrosity appears. As the ground and the surrounding area around them begin to shake violently, they are met with a bone-chilling screech that paralyzes everyone in fear. Lysander tells Ash and Alexa that whatever this thing is before them, it intends to cause harm. They can't let it leave here. One final time, they call for AZ to return his beast. Unfortunately for them, the king just simply replies, once the genie's out of the bottle, there's no putting it back in, as Hoopa begins to rampage throughout the base, attacking anything that moves. It shows no quarter to anyone, just wanting to cause any type of destruction that it can. Quickly becomes apparent that this is a fight or die situation, so with their choices made up for them, Alexa sends in Noivern and Helioptile, while Ash chooses to go with Rampardos, Quilladin, Yamega, and Absol, while Lysander uses his noble Pyroar and his vicious Mega Gyarados. The three trainers quickly combine their attacks, trying to bring down Hoopa as quickly as possible. Perfect, AZ thinks. Now I can complete my plans while they are distracted. However, while on the side of our heroes, things may seem like it's in their favor, they quickly find out why Hoopa is such a threat, as it begins to shoot rings from its body, opening up gateways that suck each of their Pokemon in and depositing them into another part of the base after they've taken severe damage. Quickly, one by one, the opposing forces drop until it's just Ash and his Pokemon left. But by this time, AZ has managed to activate the ultimate weapon, replacing the Tree of Life with the Cocoon of Destruction. The activation of the machine has drawn the attention of Hoopa, who's curious about the energy output, as it's hypnotizing to the beast. This is our chance, Lysander says. We only really have one way to beat this thing. We need to awaken both of the Aura Duo. They are the only ones that have the power to stand up to this thing. But how, Ash says. AZ's turned on the machine. The Cocoon for Evoltal is inside. That is true, but the Tree of Life is outside. Maybe if we awaken Xerneas first, then we will be able to cause enough of a distraction to awaken Evoltal. Leave it to me, Alexa says. I'll draw the attention needed so that way you guys can get to Xerneas. She calls on her Pokemon once more to do whatever they can to draw the fire and the attention of AZ. This is where Ash and Lysander head to the Tree of Life. While it's not very far from where they are, there is one conundrum that they're going to have to figure out. How exactly do they awaken the dormant Pokemon? This is where Lysander and his years of expertise come in play. He says that they should be able to awaken the Tree Guardian with a simple donation of Fairy Aura. Well, that's easier said than done, Ash says. If you haven't noticed, all the Pokemon around here that contain that, well, they were kind of bled dry by AZ and his machine. While that is true, Ash, there is something else we can use. Your Yanmega and this. Lysander then reaches into his jacket pocket and pulls out 3 oddly colored Megastones. What are these, Ash says. They're Megastones, particularly Megastones that were created by Lysander Labs. A couple of years back, I took samples from the Anastar Sundial, and I realized something. It was concentrated infinity energy. It just needed to be imbued with the right type of essence in order for it to transform into a certain Megastone. After countless hours of experiments, I was finally able to forge these 3 stones. A pure, fairy stone, a pure dragon stone, and a pure dark stone. However, as Ash and Lysander are talking about this, it has triggered a response from Absol, a response of aggression towards the red-haired man, causing him to drop his expression in the form of regret. Hey, Absol, hold on. It's okay. Don't worry. Lysander is here to help. But Lysander tells Ash no. The dark type has every reason to be upset with me. Wait, why? Ash asks. Because these stones were made for Absol, specifically yours. Wait, what do you mean my Absol? You told me that when we first met that this Absol was just wild and it needed a good trainer. That's why you gave it to me. Sorry, Ash, but that wasn't the true story. The real story is I had captured Absol to experiment on it because I knew that there could have been an incoming disaster. I knew if we couldn't awaken the Aura Trio in time, then we would need something that could stand against it. Unfortunately, we couldn't find a suitable replacement. So when I learned that the Anistar Sundial had the properties that it did, I knew it was time to create that Guardian. This is where Absol comes in. We had captured it and exposed it to the megastones that we had created at Lysander Labs. Countless battles and experiments were performed on it to get the energy levels just right. Then finally, when we were able to do so, Absol managed to escape. We chased it for days until it ended up by Ambrit Town. That's where I ran into you. That's why Absol attacked me the first time. It's because it knew what I was there for, and it was willing to do whatever it took to not return with me. And when I ran into you, for some reason, every cell in my body was telling me that Absol needed to go with you. We needed to stop what we were doing to it. It no longer felt right to perform the experiments on it that we did. Ash can do nothing but turn to Absol to ask if this is all true. Judging by the intense look, followed by growling that the dark type lets out, it begins to break Ash's heart. He looked up to Lysander. He wanted nothing more than to work with Lysander Labs, to use their technology to improve the world. But come to find out, he's no more than a monster just like AZ. Ash, you have to understand, the world is in a desperate place. It needed something to protect us. We needed something that could stand to a legendary Pokemon. So I did what I had to for the good of mankind. Ash begins to beat on Lysander's chest. How could you do that to Absol? It did nothing to you, yet you just treated it like it was a tool. You took its life away. You're a monster. This is where Lysander grabs Ash's shoulders and looks dead in his eyes. I need you to understand the gravity of this situation. If we don't act, the world will end. That was the sole motivation behind anything I did. It was never malicious. It was just to make sure we were ready for anything that would come our way. Now, only you and Absol can reactivate the tree. I need you to focus. It has to be you, Ash. Coming back to his faculties, Ash looks at Absol, then to Lysander. It's not me you have to convince. It's him. What, you're gonna leave the fate of the world hanging on the feelings of a Pokemon? That's just absurd. We're talking about life across the planet. It could end any moment. You're gonna let the decision of this ride on a grudge between a human and a Pokemon? This is where Ash tells Lysander one simple truth. If you keep seeing Absol as less than you, then you truly are no better than AZ. This gets the attention of Lysander. The boy is right. He was so obsessed with the mission. He didn't care about anything else, and it started to come at a cost. The same cost that AZ was willing to pay. There is no difference in life. Everyone should be treated equal. Lysander then hands Ash the Megastones. Fine, you two make the choice. I'm going to help Alexa. If you wish to activate the Megastone, then simply present it to Absol, and then have Yamega imbue it with the Fairy Aura. It'll trigger the Megastone to activate, and then place it on the tree, and it will awaken Xerneas. Lysander then gathers Gyarados and Pyroar as he heads off to help Alexa with AZ and Hoopa, who has now become enraged that they are now interfering with the machine and all of its brilliance. Ash looks at Absol. It's your choice, buddy. What do we do? While the Dark type isn't particularly happy to see these stones again, it does understand the gravity of the situation, possibly more than Ash and everyone else here. So, without a second thought, it growls, followed by grabbing the fairy stone out of Ash's hand with its mouth. This triggers the stone to begin to glow in a brilliant aura as it begins to resonate with Yamega, like the two are on the same wavelength or something. That's when Ash tells Yamega to do what Lysander said, transfer energy to the stone. Yamega musters what life force it has left, pushing it into the stone, causing it to glow brighter and brighter. Then, before any type of transformation can happen to Absol, the disaster Pokemon drops the stone at the roots of the tree, awaiting for the results. Luckily, it won't take long as the tree begins to morph and change as it begins to return to life. In a mere moment, Xerneas has returned, bursting with the fairy aura. This has healing properties on every Pokemon within the vicinity, replenishing Ash's Pokemon as well as Lysander's and Alexa's. However, the arrival of the Legendary of Life has heralded the rage of Hoopa, as it does not like someone interfering with all the destruction that it's caused. Now angered by Xerneas' return, the Djinn begins to attack. This begins to lay waste to everything around it. However, this does cause something of benefit to the team. In a moment of self-defense, Xerneas' power is able to overpower Hoopa, forcing it into the machine, which knocks the cocoon out of the main chamber, depowering the weapon and, more importantly, buying everyone time. This allows Ash to meet up with Lysander and Alexa at the base of the machine, where the cocoon of destruction lies. Ash, you were able to revive Xerneas. Hurry, we have to revive Yveltal as well. If we don't, then Hoopa will overpower the Pokemon of Life, and we will lose this fight. Ash begins the same procedure as he did before, giving the Mega Stone to Absol, and then having Rampardos step forward to imbue it with all of the dark energy that it has within inside of it. In a flash, then, before a Mega Evolution can take place, Absol drops the Mega Stone at the base of the cocoon in order to activate its awakening. In mere moments, a very large, very angry bird emerges from its cocoon. This is where Lysander tells them that they now need to get out of here. Unlike Xerneas, who's calm, cool, and collected, desiring only peace, Yveltal is a creature of rage, and it will destroy anything in its path that it deems needs to go. That means it will fight Hoopa, but it will also attack us if we do not leave. The trio find this out firsthand, as they are the first target of Yveltal's aggression. Luckily, they are all able to dodge relatively easy, as Hoopa and Xerneas' scuffle has caught the attention of the beast. While it recognizes the energy signature of Xerneas, Yveltal does not know Hoopa, and this is a cause for it to turn all of its aggression towards this new enemy. Within seconds, the three legendary Pokemon are caught in a scuffle of legends, quickly bringing down the surrounding base until nothing but a giant cavern is left wide open for the world to see. However, the three beasts don't care. All they want to do right now is battle it out. It's at this point that everybody sees AZ standing next to the console of the machine. You're out of options, Lysander says. We thwarted your plans. Both legendaries have been awakened, and you can no longer use them as an energy source. However, AZ just turns with a very maniacal smile and a cackle. Did you think that my only plan was to use the legendary Pokemon? How could you not foresee me having some sort of backup? After all, you, more than anyone, Lysander, are aware of my most precious creation, the Anistar Sundial, the key for the ultimate weapon. You see, while the ultimate weapon and Yveltal do serve the same purpose in draining the life force of things in order to power themselves, something has to happen to any excess energy that doesn't get used. For Yveltal, it's used when it awakens to restore its life force, but for the weapon, well, it can't really do anything with any excess energy, so it turns it into a crystallization that can be used at a later date. Unrefined infinite energy that has all of the power the machine needs. It's here that the group realizes what AZ is talking about. The Anistar Sundial. It went missing the day before, only for AZ to point at the base of the machine. In the chamber where Yveltal and Xerneas had sat, the sundial, the crystal, it's laying underneath the floor. That is where the secondary power source is stored, AZ says, as he smashes the console's button, activating the machine once again. As the engine of destruction roars to life, the three legendaries pay it no mind as they continue their battle. AZ simply smiles. I will have what I desired. The end of all things. This world will be purified. Then, without a second thought, AZ simply walks off into the light of the machine as everyone is left standing there, unsure of what to do. This is when a very real threat makes itself aware, as Hoopa has begun to overpower both Yveltal and Xerneas. It's feeding off the machine, growing its own strength. However, this has a double back. The machine is also feeding off of Hoopa. The two are using each other's energies to amplify one another. This is where the man with all of the answers, Lysander, drops to his knees. I'm sorry, he says. I've spent my life trying to prevent this exact moment. Everything that I've done was for nothing. However, just because Lysander has given up doesn't mean Ash has. He and his Pokemon are still fully energized from Xerneas replacing their power, and they are not about to allow Hoopa or the ultimate weapon to end life as they know it. They all begin to engage the monstrosity as Yveltal and Xerneas now lay unconscious at the feet of the monster. Ash tells Alexa and Lysander to get out of here. The only Pokemon that stand a chance against this thing are his Aura Trio, and maybe the last Megastone that he has for Absol. They need to go. Alexa and Lysander try to grab Ash as he runs in the direction of Hoopa. However, the last bit of roof in the cavern that they're in collapses, blocking those two from Ash, leaving our young hero to stand alone against the machine and Hoopa. One by one, they engage the dimensional demon, but just like the legendaries, they fall. First, Rampardos, then Yamega, followed by Quilladin, then Absol. Ash knows that he'd bitten off more than he could chew. However, he also knows that he's the only one that can do this. But it's not just him alone. Though they've had most of their energy spent and they are very battle worn, each of his Pokemon stand back up to take on Hoopa once more. They won't go down. They won't let this demon win. The one here who's especially motivated is Quilladin, as it begins bursting with that green aura that it had once before. Its eyes are also glazed in red as its aggression has taken hold. However, something about this is different. This time, not just Quilladin is glowing in the green aura, but the entire surrounding area. Everywhere Ash looks, little green pillars are beginning to burst from the ground as they begin to dissipate into Quilladin. Then, one of those things that Ash saw before, that strange little squishy Pokemon that had been absorbed by Quilladin. You again, Ash says. What are you? However, he's not going to get much time to find out, as Hoopa is on the attack again, and the green squishy just vanishes, dissipating and being absorbed by Quilladin. All of Ash's Pokemon take a defensive stance, ready to intercept the mythical Pokemon. All except for Quilladin, as it bursts in a green hue and begins to change size and shape. What? It's evolving now, Ash says? The aura that's emanating from Quilladin is enough to stave off Hoopa. For whatever reason, it can't break through the barrier and the pressure that it's creating. This angers the Djinn, as it begins to create a double feedback with the machine, causing it to turn faster and charge harder. As Ash's newly evolved grass dragon type emerges from the light, Chestnut has made itself known. Not only that, Quilladin's aura is beginning to manifest itself, as it begins to circle around everyone and take form. In the blink of an eye, a giant stands before everyone, able to match Hoopa in its size. Ash recognizes this depiction. It's Zygarde. He saw a brief sketch of it in the book of Zygarde that Serena had showed him. Then he remembers something that she told him. The legendary Pokemon of Kalos tend to choose avatars to house their power in when they are in moments of weakness. That's when Ash realizes just how important his three Pokemon are. They were actually chosen by the three legendaries. They are vessels, avatars for whenever they are not around. That's why his Pokemon were able to jumpstart the legendaries themselves. Chestnut is a prime example of it. It's steadily been increasing in power ever since it evolved from Chespin. And that burst of energy that it experienced from Zygarde, that was the first instance of it. It was flooded with Zygarde's own energy, forcing it to evolve so it can house its energy. Then it evolved again when it needed to house more energy, allowing Zygarde to reconstitute itself. And this is the place where AZ was supposed to have stayed off with Zygarde so many years ago. That means that whatever was left of Zygarde from that battle must have been lying dormant here, waiting for the majority of its body to return. Finally, Ash begins to feel like he has a chance. Standing up, he looks to all of his Pokemon. We need to do this. We have to stop Hoopa and shut the machine down at all costs. All of his Pokemon nod as they are on the same page as they head to the machine, while 100% Zygarde, Yveltal, and Xerneas battle it out with Hoopa as it begins to open up dimensional rings, trying to suck the three legendaries into a separate plane of existence. Heading to the console of the main machine, Ash and his Pokemon do whatever they can to try and stop it by smashing whatever consoles they can find that lead to the power source of the Anastar Sundial. Unfortunately, though all of their attempts are benevolent in nature, realization sets in as Ash watches the machine reach critical mass and fire. The boy can do nothing, as everything is enveloped in intense light, as the machine is finally able to do what it was made to. Now we fast forward 6 months, and we are in Lumio City. We find Alexa and Grant leaving the office of Professor Sycamore. They came to see the professor to check up on him and how everything is, considering Kalos just barely got the power back on. After their visit, Grant and Alexa are walking down the street of Lumio City, enjoying the lights, as this is the first time the city's been able to be illuminated in the dark since the Zero Aura event. Grant comments that he's proud of the progress that Alexa has made since she joined the International Police. He didn't think that she would actually be able to cut it, but Alexa quips that with all of her experience from Team Flare, she was going to be guaranteed to be good. This causes a moment of silence between the two, as they reminisce about the friend that they lost in the Zero another aura event. Has there been any word on Ash? Nothing, Grant says. We've been able to find no signs of where he is, or if he's even still alive. Then again, we haven't been able to find AZ, or any of the scientists for that matter. The entire area around Geosenge Town, for a 5-mile radius, is irradiated with all of that aura energy, and construction crews are still trying to clear all of the space from where the ultimate weapon once sat. We don't even know the extent of the damage of the area yet. But don't worry, Ash was a smart kid. I'm sure he was able to survive, Grant says. Alexa goes to say something, but their comms go off. It's Looker. They have their next assignment, and they need to go. And that's where we're gonna leave things for Ash's journeys if he was born in Kalos. And that's all we had for today's video. I really appreciate you guys stopping by to watch all the way to the end, and I just wanted to say thank you for that. If you guys really enjoy my content, consider following me on some of my other platforms like Discord, where you can get to know other people who are interested in what ifs, or on Twitter, where I post sometimes behind the scenes updates. Or if you want to help the channel grow a little bit extra, why don't you consider donating like the people right here have, as whatever you could offer could help us get to a larger audience by helping us get new videos done, or some of the projects that or custom art is getting kind of expensive. So we want to make sure that we have the funds to do that. But with all that being said, I really hope you guys enjoyed everything, and I will see you in the next video.